Well, hello and welcome to Beyond the Sermon, a Bethany podcast where we have the privilege of digging deeper into our Sunday messages. I'm Tammy DeLau, and today I'm joined with Pastor David Baxley and Pastor Steve Musto. And guys, this is going to be a different podcast. We're going to dig into a lot of messages because our people have questions that are burning.
Boy, how bad would I feel though if nobody had questions?
That's good.
You know,
that's a good attitude.
Because you better have questions about Revelation. I have questions about Revelation, and I'm glad we get a chance to
answer some.
Okay.
Well, one that I think is burning on a lot of people's heart is we have all had the privilege of sitting under other pastors, and we've loved them, and God has used them in our lives to grow us. And it is very possible what you are presenting is very different than what they've heard. And so there's an angst that can stir in one's heart, like oh my goodness, I need to be loyal to Pastor Foley because he taught me. Or does that make sense? Or who do I trust? For those of us who may have trust issues anyway, this kind of thing can really unnerve us.
Sure. So
shepherd that, because I think that could be going on.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? And if I'm honest, sometimes that stuff goes on for me, just when different things are taught.
So a couple weeks ago, all of us were at a theology conference, and one of the highlights for me was how many of the speakers engaged on the topic of, as we were talking about death and hell. I mean, it was heavy stuff. And they engaged on the topic of what if we don't agree? Is this heresy if you don't agree with it? And we spent a lot of time talking about this, about the idea of heresy. And I think in general, as followers of Jesus, we've fallen into a little bit of a trap of calling everything that is different than what we believe heretical.
Okay.
And therefore damaging to the cause of Christ. And how can you believe this? And because here's the deal. If we take a stand on everything, nothing is worth standing on. There's just too many disagreements. There are too many really smart people who love Jesus, who disagree on matters of faith and practice. There are things we have to agree on.
Jesus,
what the Bible is, the way of salvation. There are certain essentials. There are tent poles that hold up the tent.
Right.
We can't saw at those, but many, many other things. It is how many times have I said it on the podcast? It's one of my favorite songs. It is on my current favorites playlist on my iPod or on my iPhone right now. Let me see if I can get the first line. Let's leave it alone. We can't see eye to eye. There ain't no good guy. There ain't no bad guy. There's only you and me, and we just disagree. And it's okay for us to disagree on certain matters of faith and practice. Without it, this completely dissolves the entire foundation of the Bible. Well, your faith needs to be stronger than that because it's over time, scholars, professors, pastors have disagreed on these, had dinner together, hugged each other, written. Scholars do this all the time. They write articles being critical of something that someone else wrote, and then they go out to dinner with that same person, and they call them and like, how are you? How are the kids? We've got to be better at that than we are.
And I think we lose sight that this is actually the natural progression of the Christian life. And we see that all the way back in the early church. I mean, we saw them debating. We saw great men like Peter and Paul debating on issues. Peter holding fast to what he had always been taught.
And Jerusalem Council.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Peter held fast this topic of circumcision specifically here for Peter, but holding fast to what he'd always been taught. Paul coming in and saying, no, Peter, you're missing something now in light of what now we have also learned because of Christ. And they had to have this tension. And it wasn't just that one of them needed to get their issues resolved, but I actually think it models for us the way we grow in our Christian faith, the way we grow in our understanding of God, the way none of us can take it all in from the moment we get saved and understand it all. God is progressively helping us grow in our knowledge and understanding. I bet all of us right here would say that we believe things now differently than we did 10 years ago and 20 years ago.
Absolutely.
And it wasn't because someone told us something wrong 20 years ago, is that we ourselves have grown, and all this information has been built on other foundations that God's using in our lives to shape us and form us. And when we kind of pin a new teaching against an old teaching, we fall into the trap that I think Steve's articulating. I don't think that's what the Spirit of God is asking us to do. He's asking us to build and learn to have conversations around these things.
And I 100% agree, but I know that there's a wrestle.
Sure.
So I definitely
and there should
wanted
be.
to.
There's a wrestle in me because in teaching this, I went back through my my notes from seminary, and I have a big document, Daniel and Revelation class.
Yes.
And combining those two and talking about those two. And I went back through all those notes as I'm getting ready to teach on a passage. I go through what my professors taught me, and there's a lot of that. I some of the things I've said on Sundays, I've pulled from those notes and slipped it in. You know, like here's a note that came out of that, and I'm still utilizing much of that, but then other things I'm going, now I've moved past that.
Yeah.
And I don't agree with that anymore.
Okay.
I would have raised my hand. This version of me would have raised my hand in class and said, okay, all right, that was good that you used 1 Thessalonians, but can we flip back and look at this passage too? Yeah. And as we answer questions today, maybe we'll touch on some of that.
I want to quote, though. We were talking to someone recently, yesterday, Steve, a friend of ours, who said, I'm not sure you fully convinced me of shifting maybe the viewpoint they have versus the ones we're talking about today.
Yeah.
But then he said, but I'm realizing I understand how to apply revelation to my life now in ways I never understood before. I thought that's the takeaway.
Yeah.
That's what the whole point of this is. At the end of the day, how do we recognize what God is going to ask of us today without trying to figure out the perfect narrative of the future or the past and all of this?
Right.
I feel like for me, and I know we have our own stories, so we have to be careful, but both the theology conference that we went to, just really looking at heaven and hell being a reality and how we are approaching Revelation, I am more encouraged to be on Team Lamb. I am more excited about the people that I walk with and realizing that they have a soul and wanting them to be on Team Lamb, because the judgments, which you're going to talk about, don't look pretty. So for me, this has been really good. I think there's a part of me that's, I'm honest, have been scared about this book and just kind of rather be in, I don't know, John, so somewhere else. So this has been really good. Yeah, this has been really good. Okay, so a few weeks ago, you introduced to us the red dragon, and we talked about Satan. Some people believe that he's a fallen angel, and we see the word demons in the Bible. Are all demons fallen angels? Like, what does that mean? Does that make sense, that question?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is about the podcast from last week, or the little teaching, the extra teaching, message extra, I guess, that I did last week. Sometimes we give short answers to things. And I think one of the short answers that we've given over the years to explain the presence of Satan, because it's uncomfortable to try to explain, why did God create a being that he knew was going to rebel against, a powerful being like Lucifer that he knew was going to rebel against him? We can't give entire long answers to this. Sometimes we have to give short answers. And so one of the ways we've answered that is, well, Lucifer is a fallen angel, and he took demons with him when he fell. That is an explanation. It's a shorter explanation. And what I was trying to do last week was really just explain, this is what ancient people, remember I said in the video, I'm not saying you have to believe this. I'm telling you what ancient people believed about the spirit world. And they believed absolutely that Satan was a spiritual creature that of great power and has authority on the earth. There are other principalities and powers as well, and that when they're worshiping, back to Paul in 1 Corinthians, saying, don't you realize that when you're eating meat that's been sacrificed to idols, you're eating meat sacrificed to demons? I mean, this is his worldview. This is what he's thinking of. So, in essence, we can think of Satan as a kind of fallen angel, but angel ends up being a catch-all term. And as we've seen in Revelation, there are many kinds of spiritual beings.
Mm-hmm.
There are those that stand around the throne. They have different faces. They are spiritual creatures.
Mm-hmm.
There are angels who are messengers. They're all different of these spiritual beings. So it's shorthand. We're using shorthand when we say Satan is an angel who fell from heaven.
Well, we're using shorthand when we use the word demon too, because the Bible speaks of unclean spirits, cosmic powers, deceiving spirits, like all these, and principalities. Like we just kind of throw them into the category of demons.
So as I was praying about this today and trying to wrap my head around it, I thought, if I say that something is the color blue, it could be baby blue, it could be aqua blue, it could be...
That's great.
Is that what you guys are saying at some level? Like it's this spiritual entity, but it's... I don't know. I don't know. That came to me today. So
maybe spiritual entity that we're specifically saying this is the one in rebellion against God. That's fighting against God's desired will, his plan, his creation, and because of their hatred toward God, hatred toward those created in the image of God, which is humanity. And so we're seeing that may be the blue. I don't know if that's a way of...
it might actually even broader. I mean, it's a great illustration. Might it be like saying it's a color? It's just a color, and not saying what color it is. So color is like, well, that could be anything.
Okay.
And that's kind of the spiritual world.
Yeah,
it really could be anything.
Yeah.
And then within those, there are shades of each of these colors as well that it can be. So, God is infinite, and he's created many, many different kinds of spiritual creatures, and we don't understand. He doesn't unpack all of them and doesn't explain what he's doing behind the scenes. This is part of what makes Revelation such a weird book, is that we're not dealing with our world. We're dealing with the spiritual world, and we're not used to spending a lot of time there.
And not comfortable there either.
No, we're not.
It's just like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's another question then. We keep referring to this as apocalyptic literature, literature that we don't understand, was only around for a few hundred years. But then John talks about this being a prophecy. That's very confusing. Like, is this really a prophecy? And isn't prophecy forthtelling? And it's something that's going to happen in the future? Like, it's tricky. So help us, help me, help them understand.
Yep. So right at the beginning, one of the things we said about this book is that it crosses different kinds of literature. So it's apocalyptic, it's prophecy, it's narrative, because it has, some different things it's saying in there, and it's epistle literature,
like
letters.
A letter, yep.
So it does combine several different genres. But let's talk about prophecy for just a second, because if I walk up to most people and I say, I have a prophecy for you. Like, I have a prophecy for you, Tammy. What do you think I'm going to tell you? What would be your picture of the kind of information I'm going to share with you?
Something that's going to happen in my future.
Okay. That is how most people, and certainly when I hear prophecy, it's immediately where my mind goes to. That is actually the smallest portion of prophetic word in all of the Bible is foretelling. So there are within prophetic literature, there are 11 different subgenres of prophecy. It's really complicated to discern which one is which. The two that we really have to worry about is foretelling, which is when a prophet comes up and says, a lion is going to meet you in the road and kill you. Or when Simeon says about Christ, when he's 12 or 8 days old, this one will cause the rise and fall of many in Israel, and a sword will pierce your heart as well. So he says to Mary, okay, he's saying something that is going to happen. We think that's the majority. It's actually the minority of prophetic word. So foretelling. The other one is forthtelling. Forthtelling is telling things as they are, bringing a word from God about this is what needs to be happening in Israel right now. This is what's not going well. This is what needs to change about this. It's preaching in essence. And that is the bulk of prophecy. And so if we look at Revelation as being all future focused, we're missing it because it's not. It is prophecy. It has prophecy in it, but that doesn't always mean that it's telling us what the future is. It often is telling us this is what's currently happening. In fact, that's the bulk of prophecy throughout the prophets.
And we see this in the Old Testament too. It's currently happening with a warning, with the potential outcomes, not necessarily the for sure outcomes, potential outcomes based off adhering to the warning. We see this throughout Israel's history. Like, if you're doing this, if you continue with this is what will happen. But if you turn differently and do this, and so it's the urgency of change, or the urgency of steadfastness toward what God is calling his people to. And let's go now to Revelation. In that, Revelation opens up with this prophecy in chapter 1, but also it closes with that. And I think it explains this or summarizes this more in chapter 22. It says, "And he said to me, do not seal up the words of the prophecy of this book, for the time is near." And then here's the warning. Here's the point of this. "The one who does evil, let him do evil still, and the defiled, let him defile still, and the righteous, let him practice righteousness still, and the holy, be holy still." And then he says in verse 12, why? "Because behold, I am coming quickly, and my reward is with me to repay each one according to their deeds." That's prophecy. Like, if we want to really give what a lot of scripture prophetically is doing, it's that. And that's what Revelation is doing. And so it opens up, here's the prophecy, and it closes up saying, remember, this was a prophecy with this purpose in mind. It's a warning. Stay faithful, live holy, because God is coming, and the reward for you and the consequences are coming for those that don't.
Yep.
Okay, we've got a number, 144,000. It's used a couple of times. We've been saying numbers are symbolic. Sometimes it feels literal. Who are the 144,000? That's a question we've had.
Yeah,
Someone
we've had this question. This because this is one of those times where you feel like, I wish I had more than 35 minutes every Sunday because I run out of time to be able to explain how we get to a place. We're not selectively choosing information to present. We just don't have the time. So let's unpack this a little bit. My point of view is that the 144,000 that we read about in Revelation represents all the people of God throughout all time. And the challenge of that is when you get to chapter 7. Let me read chapter 7, verse 1. "After this, I saw 4 angels standing at the 4 corners of the earth, restraining the 4 winds of the earth, so that no wind could blow on the earth or on the sea or on any tree. Then I saw another angel rising up from the east, who had the seal of the living God. He cried out in a loud voice to the 4 angels who were allowed to harm the earth and the sea, 'Don't harm the earth or the sea or the trees until we seal the servants of God on their foreheads.' And I heard the number of the sealed, 144,000 sealed from every tribe of the Israelites." And then it goes on and it lists 12,000 sealed from Judah, 12,000 from Reuben, from 12 tribes of the Israelites. Interestingly, without Dan. Dan does not get a listing here.
Nope, he's
so
missing.
12,000 from every tribe, including Ephraim and Manasseh, the 2 half tribes that are Joseph's sons, but not Dan's. So there's all kinds of, and that's never explained.
No.
So there are theories as to why that's the case. But so you would say, most people who would read this would just say, well, this is clearly Israel because it's taken from the tribes of Israel. So how can this not be Israel? And here are a few reasons why I don't think he's talking about an ethnic Israel. If we keep reading and we get to chapter 14, in chapter 14, the church is marked with the name of the Lord. And so if we are going to say, let's see if I can turn to that. I looked, there was the Lamb standing on Mount Zion. With him were the 144,000 who had his name and his Father's name written on their foreheads. And so if what we're going to say is this is not the church, this is only a special group of the people of Israel, ethnic Jews, then the church is not sealed with the name of God, which is a little troubling theologically.
For us.
Yeah, that would be a little troubling. So some have said, no, that's actually a special group of 144,000. Everybody else the church has already been sealed. Everybody else has already been sealed. This is a special group, perhaps that came through the tribulation. The problem with that, if you keep reading in chapter 14, there's a number of problems. One problem is that only they can worship God. Only they, in chapter 14, can learn the song to worship the Lord. So that's problematic. That it would seem that no one else is allowed to learn the song that praises the Lord. I have a problem with that personally. What we're also saying is that God is seemingly choosing an ethnocentric army of strictly Jewish believers in the last days and undoing Paul's words in Galatians chapter 3, 27 through 29, which is that because of the death of Christ, there is no slave, free, man, woman, Jew, Greek. He's undoing that. He's saying, well, okay, that's true, but during this time, I've decided to lift that for some reason. That, again, a little problematic if we're gonna say he's changing theology for a very specific period of time.
If we're taking the Bible as the whole counsel.
If we're going to take this literally, you got to take the whole thing literally. You can't play, I'm going to take this figuratively and this literally. Dude, were you going to?
Yeah, well, I agree with everything you said. For me, there's even going back to chapter 7, I think there's a progressive narrative there that's also happening in association with the 144,000. I think it complements everything you're saying. And that is in chapter 7, verse 4, you read that. He first says, I heard the number of the sealed. And I want to hold on to the word heard.
Yeah, you're stealing my thunder. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm so sorry.
No, I'm getting to that.
I love the thunder. So, okay.
No, this is good.
Heard the number of the sealed, and he describes Israel. But there's a progression that takes place as you started to read also in verse 9, Steve, and it says, after this I looked, and he saw there was a multitude of nation of every tribe, every people, every language before the throne. And then now he sees this 144,000, but we describe it differently. So he hears, and what I see in this is partially this reference to he heard the beginning, the Abrahamic covenant being that was first prophesied in Genesis, that through Abraham, through God's nation, all the nations would then be blessed. All the nations would then come together. So he says, I heard what God, almost like he's like, I heard what God said, what he spoke, what he promised. And now I see the fulfillment of that promise. It's not just Israel. It's every tribe, every nation, every people coming together and now worshiping the Lamb as God's people. And so, and again, that we do that actually, we can get so fixated on a section, we forget the narrative as it's unfolding throughout the book. You complimented that as well. That helps us understand he's building on something, on the story of the whole Bible, to help us understand the story that's being revealed in Revelation.
So let's unpack that further.
Yeah, go.
He says, I heard a number in heaven, and the number was 144,000. It was from all these tribes. But when I turned, I saw.
That's right. Yes.
And saw the multitude, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Because we've seen this happen before in Revelation. If we go to Revelation chapter 5,
okay,
the Lamb takes the scroll. Who's worthy to open the scroll and break its seals? This is the judgment that's going to be poured out on the earth. No one's able to do it. What happens to John? He weeps and weeps because none of the travesties of the earth is going to be judged. No one is found worthy. And one of the elders said to me, so he hears the elders say, do not weep. Look, the lion from the tribe of Judah,
so
the root
good
of
right
David has conquered, so that he is able to open the scroll and its 7 seals. So he hears,
Mhm.
and then he turns, and he doesn't see a lion.
Nope.
He sees a slaughtered lamb.
Amen. There you go. Great
And
compliment.
I think
to that.
John is doing the exact same
Yes.
thing with the 144,000.
Yes.
Here are 144,000. He hears.
Mm.
He turns to see the people of Israel, of which he is one, John is.
Mm-hmm.
But instead of seeing the people of Israel, what he sees is all of the people throughout all of time and throughout all of history. It's the church. And so I think that's the one, to me, that is one of the strongest arguments for the 144,000 representing the church. John is repeating this same pattern. You hear something and then you see something.
And both are necessary.
Both are
It's
necessary.
not like, well, we don't want to hear because you're going to see something different. You need
And
to
both are
see.
true. It's a progression.
Yeah.
He is both a lion, and we see that I mentioned from an Old Testament perspective, who is also the lamb, but he conquered as not the lion who is devouring, but the lamb who sacrifices. And then we also see in the beginning of Israel, the line that Jesus came from, the God's people, the Old Testament, now bringing about a new, complete people, a global people from every tribe and every, so it's a nation now belonging to God. It's the progressions building on itself.
We've been talking about what's here in the text, but let's get practical, just from a pragmatic standpoint for a moment. One of the largest problems that if you're going to say this is 144,000 literal believers, usually what is said is this is 144,000 Jewish people who are going to come to Christ during the time of the tribulation.
Yeah.
And so for folks who believe that, they would say, most of them would say the tribulation is a literal 7-year period of time. I'll talk about the 7 years this weekend, but a literal 7-year period of time, and 144,000 Jewish people from each of these tribes, except Dan, is going to come to Christ.
Poor Dan.
I know. So if you're going to say that, then a couple things need to happen. The first thing that needs to happen is you need to acknowledge that there is no such thing as the 12 tribes anymore. They don't exist anymore. In fact, they didn't exist in the time of Jesus, in the time of John. The 12 tribes. You didn't say, I'm from the tribe of Naphtali. They were a lost tribe. They are still a lost tribe to this day. That's not a point of view theologically. That's actually pretty much everybody's in agreement on that. And Jewish people are in agreement on that they can't trace their roots to this tribe or that tribe or anymore. That happened when the people of Israel were carried into captivity in Assyria, and they all got mixed together. And the people of Judah, who stayed together with the tribe of Levi and a little bit of the tribe of Benjamin as well, they had an easier time because there were only 3 tribes. They got carried into captivity in Persia. So they had a little bit of an easier time with
the
their
knots.
roots.
Okay.
And that's why we have in Matthew the generations from Adam to Christ. I mean, essentially is what we have. If you look at the Bible, at each of the you can trace a lineage from Adam all the way to Jesus in various parts of Scripture, and that just doesn't exist anymore. So, in addition to that, what's a Jew? Go ahead and try to define that.
Yeah.
What is a Jewish person?
Is it a nationality? Is it a religion? Is it a...
And is it people who live in a land?
Mhm.
Because that's not the same land as the land that it was. It's in the same region, but even the borders are not the same. And okay, so does it count if you have converted to Judaism? Does it count? And then how are you going to be put into a tribe from that?
Yeah.
If you're going to take this literally, I'm just saying, if you're going to take it literally, you got to go to the mat literally on everything. You can't say, well, I think it's literal, but this is all figurative. You know, if it's literal, it's got to be literal down the whole way.
That was one of the most powerful things as I was studying this, and 8-9 years ago, even wrestling with what I had grown up with and being challenged really well by some great teachers to consider what my interpretation was. What you just said was so important, but he spoke specifically about numbers. Mm-hmm. He said we cannot pick and choose which numbers we want to be literal numbers,
right,
and which numbers we want to be figurative.
Correct.
And that's what a lot of the tension around this is that one's going to be the literal number. We're going to get this later on as well as we get farther into the book. And that was such, you guys know my personality. My lawyer brain says, I'm inconsistent. I can't handle, so I had to dive deeper and to say, where am I landing on that? Can I justify that inconsistency? And I could not. I could not create a narrative. I could not find one argued to me that justified the inconsistency outside of personal interpretive preferences, not consistent literal interpretation, literary interpretations of the text.
So all of the words that we just spoke, I think I hear you saying, or you just have built a case that because of what we're talking about, all of the numbers that we're looking at in Revelation are symbolic. They are not literal. Is that correct? Is there any number in these 22 books that
Sure. Yeah. Okay. When there's a literal number and then we're told that it's a literal number. When there are 4 creatures around the throne.
Okay.
Where each of the 4 creatures is described.
Okay.
And then we go, that's a literal 4 creatures.
Okay.
But with something like the number of a man is 666, we can't say, unless we're prepared to say that all the numbers are literal, we can't say, well, that's a literal number that's going to be tattooed on people's foreheads and whatever.
But even that 4 creatures, we cover this. The reason of 4 and the description of the creatures represents much more than 4 creatures. It's the representation of even something bigger. And so I think that's what even 7 churches. The letter, it's not like 7 individual household churches read this and no one else did. Like it's still being passed. So
in the area.
Yes, that's exactly right. In the area and things like that. And so, yes, it speaks to something, but even what it's speaking to is often bigger or different than what that number means. And I think that's why this is such an important conversation to have because of how we all naturally read anything in our culture, in our world, from a literal standpoint.
Here's my biggest issue with it has to do with the heart of God. To make the 144,000 literal, actually back to the heart of God. So I think the Galatians passage is interesting that, God decides that, it doesn't apply anymore during the tribulation and just starts segmenting people into groups again.
And that's the passage, neither Greek nor Jew. There's
that's male nor strange
female,
to me.
slave or, okay.
So I think that's compelling. But the other compelling part is, 12,000, you got to take it literally. If you're going to say it's a literal number, we are taking exactly 12,000.
And how many people have been on the face of this earth since the beginning of
time?
And
this would be, I think a lot of people would say this is a 7-year period of time.
Yeah. Okay.
144,000 are going to come to Christ in that 7-year period of time. So if that's the case, then it's plausible. But my thing is, does the heart of God, does this sound like the heart of God? 12,001 person says, I am a wretched sinner. I realize all these things that have happened on the earth. I am saved by the blood of Christ, and I come to Christ, and God says, no, I'm sorry. I have my 12,000. Even though you believe in my son, even though you are broken by your sin, even though you confess him as your Lord and Savior, because again, it's during this special time, this little 7-year period of time is special and unique, and I cut you off and I spit you out of my mouth. I go, oh, wait a second. That is not even in line with what God with the heart of God for me. Mm-hmm. And so that's where I struggle with that. That's where I've struggled with this. Mm-hmm. This is what I was taught.
That's what I was taught.
And I fought against this way back then. Like, wait a minute. You're telling me that my Jesus, my Savior, who wrapped his arms around lepers and that Jesus is the one who's going to draw a line in the sand and say, I'm sorry, 12,001.
Yeah, but
You
I know
don't get
why.
in. We have the allotment. If you'd only been from the tribe of Naphtali, everything would have been fine. But you're from the tribe of Joseph.
And all those Danites.
Yeah, those Danites, none of them get in.
But and I say this knowing you and I have we're unified how we see Revelation. That argument is not a hard thing for me. See, I'm actually comfortable if that's something God did, because I see verses like I have mercy who I have, I show mercy on who I want to, and so I only say it to say I think both of us can say, hey, well, I actually could find a compelling argument that elsewhere, but it's not consistent with what's happening in Revelation, period. And so I just want to acknowledge that we can come at, that tension will still exist for different people. And it's good we can talk about that because God's wired us all differently. That helps us have these conversations to see how scripture feeds into these.
Yeah.
And yet coming back to the authentic, what we need to do authentically with how we interpret Revelation in light of Revelation.
Yeah.
I totally see what you're saying, but I'm like, I just had a women's retreat. And when we hit 70, too bad, so sad. If you were number 71, you couldn't come.
Yeah.
So
Wow,
I mean,
so you didn't have the heart of God that Steve wants us to have.
The heart of God that you
Well,
want
that's
me to have, Steve.
wow, that got hard right now.
But so we do see that happening. I think part of the reason that would be a pill for some to swallow is because we see it happening in our lives. There's a limit and a number, and
yes, but in all of Scripture,
yes,
we've never seen it happen with God, with grace.
Yes.
And with the blood of Christ. We've never said, so now
we don't see him drawing boundaries like that in people groups or with people in that way anywhere else in the Bible.
Right.
Yes.
I am the way, the truth, and the life, except for if you're.
For God so loved the world except for 12,001.
Yes. So, yep.
Yeah. So and I'm not, look, again, I'm not trying to be snarky about this. This is, people have been talking about this for many, many years. And it's hard. I'm telling you where I land.
Yeah.
So if you don't land there, let's leave it alone. We can't see eye to eye. There ain't no good guy. There ain't no bad guy. There's only you and me, and we just disagree. I love you. It's okay to disagree with me on this.
Okay, so we've answered a ton of questions. And now this week, you are going to be covering so many chapters.
Yeah.
And you are talking about the judgment.
Yes.
And I'm sure we're going to open up more questions.
Good.
Is there anything you would like to say before we need to?
Oh boy. I sat down in a meeting, I think it was yesterday, with David, and he said, how's it going for this weekend? And I said, it was a lot. We have, again, limited time, but we're trying to get in the whole book, and
especially in this right here.
And this right here, this was my choice. I made a choice to talk about the judgments of God in 1 week on purpose, so that we didn't have, week 3 of the week 9 of judgments. Here's more judgments on the earth. It's a little heavy, so decided to do it in 1 week and probably bit off a little bit more. So we will have a lot to talk about, I'm sure, next week.
Yeah.
And it's tricky. This is really hard. There are 3 sets of 7 judgments, because of course there are 7.
Yeah, right.
So we've already seen the seals. There's going to be the bowls. There's going to be the trumpets, and mixed in there are the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. So that's another thing that people at least have heard of, and have ideas about. So we'll talk about those, and people get mad at me.
Well, no, we're not getting mad at anybody, because we're going to do as well. And what we're going to do is we're going to throw those questions out. So please send those questions over to us.
Yes.
We want to get them. We talked about that before. And I appreciated the conversation we're going to have today.
It was really fun.
Really thoughtful. And those questions are, like you said, we should have questions. So throw them at us.
Yeah.
And let's wrestle through. Who knows? We might find different interpretations than the 3 of us that are represented out there. And we want that. We'll flesh that out and have some good conversation around those.
Awesome.
Okay. So if people want to read, you are literally covering chapters 6 through 9 and 15 through 16.
Yep.
So
6, 7, 8, 9, and really 7 stands on its own.
Okay.
It's 6, 8, and 9.
Okay.
And just if you can do that, if you can read 6, 8, and 9, that's great.
You'd come
7, there's a lot. 7's cool, and I wish I had broken 7 off and had just a week to talk about 7.
Okay.
But yeah, no such luck.
Well, I'm happy we're not going to hear judgment for 16 weeks.
Yeah.
So thank you. So I'm very happy.
And all the little lambs around Tammy, thank you as well.
Yeah, sure. But this is super fun, guys. So thank you for today, and thank you for joining us. Have a great week. Bye-bye.